I am happy to welcome Kya Blackstone to the show. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. All the way from Germany. Yes, it's afternoon right now. I live in Berlin, Germany. So I don't know, it's like a little bit after 4 over here. You can see like nice afternoon light coming into my living room. Very happy to be
Yeah,
here.
beautiful. Yes, beautiful light. You're
Beautiful.
my second guest in a row that I'm interviewing from Germany, actually.
No, oh, you know what? That's actually not surprising. It's a very sex positive city and a very open city. I think it's the best city to start a intimate wellness brand. At least that's what we're calling them these days. It's like
Yeah.
what we do. Mhm.
Well, speaking of your brand, that is why you are here today. Those who are
Yeah.
watching can see your brand name behind you, but you are the
Yes,
founder
thank you.
of Solo, which is
Solo,
an
yes.
you are all about solo sex, and your product is something that helps with that. So, and
It
pleasure.
does.
So, tell me more about
Pleasure.
Solo.
Okay, so Solo is an intimate wellness brand. We create intimate care self pleasure products for women and people with vulvas. Our inaugural product is Glow Intimacy Oil Formula Number One. I have the bottle right here. So pretty. See, it's like really
It is
beautiful.
so pretty.
Um, and it is a all natural CBD infused intimacy oil that is used for a multitude of things. Like you can use it as for self massage, it's for stimulation, it's a moisturizer. We started with an intimacy oil intentionally in the beginning because we wanted a multifunctional product that we felt could provide a very luxurious and pleasurable experience. I think in many ways people have an idea of what self pleasure is, what solo sex is, and what we want to do is create tools that are all natural tools to expand the mind and also deepen the practice, and then connection with themselves. So yeah, and pleasure is super important for us as well.
Yes, yes. So, while my tagline that I use is exercise, meditate, masturbate, I've been trying to make a conscientious effort to not say masturbate as much when I'm just
Yeah,
talking about it as a practice with my clients or even with my friends.
for sure.
Um, I think that solo sex, self pleasure, things like that, just
Mhm. Yeah.
they have a better ring to it. I mean, masturbation, the Latin root of it basically means like harming oneself, right?
Yes.
And we're not harming
Yeah.
ourselves when we touch
We aren't
ourselves or
harming
pleasure
ourselves.
ourselves.
It's it's super healthy for you, and I also think it also indicates penis and maleness, or a penis, or if you have a male with a penis, So I think that like that type of we want to remove that from this conversation. I mean, I remember when I first started Solo, many people would say, well, why don't you make products for men, or people with penises? And I would just be like, this is not about them. Like this is really about us. It is there's historical reasons for this, and there is a reason why masturbation, self harm, there's a lot of taboo-ness around the subject, and I do think it's kind of like connected definitely with uh, maleness or penises. I will say, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and then that's something even as a sexologist that I talk about is
Hmm.
little boys figure out that they've got an appendage between their legs very, very early.
Oh, for
Like
sure.
it's just
Very
there.
early.
It's hard to
Yeah, they can't
avoid.
stop touching. Yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
vulva owners, it takes a bit more exploration,
Hmm.
even some guidance and direction, to
For sure.
understand more about their own bodies.
Hmm.
Yeah, boys just
It
naturally
does.
explore.
They do. They do just naturally explore, and I would argue that girls do as well. But I think that there is a sense of because it's not out there, they don't discover it as early. So when you have like 1 or 2 year old boys like kind of touching themselves, and they aren't touching themselves in the same way adults touch themselves, right? It's kind of like
Right.
we are beings that are made for pleasure. And so body exploration is a part of that. It's a part of growing up. And I think that there's been a shroud around this that is completely negative, but really it's like super natural for you and really, really good for you. And I would love to talk to you later about the importance of the clitoris and how the clitoris literally is just there for pleasure. That is it. It's all it does. It's so pretty.
Do you have any of these 3D models?
I love it. I'm gonna start collecting them, or like make I have a friend of a friend here in Berlin, and her partner created like a gold one for her. She wears it on her
I,
neck. She's a gynecologist, and I think it's like I was like, this is amazing.
I a gynecologist too wearing one because that's just no gynecologist has ever talked to me
I
about my
know,
clitoris or about
I
pleasure
know,
or asked
I
me
know.
about my sex life other than if I was in pain or not.
Exactly,
So
exactly,
that's the
exactly.
part. Also, again, being in Germany, but yeah, I've told my husband I want all the clitoris jewelry. I want a necklace. I want earrings. I want like magic
I
wand
love
earrings.
it.
I wore my naked lady earrings for you today.
Oh, I
This
love
is
that. Oh
from a
my
local
goodness.
artist
Can
in
I can
FX.
I think they're so beautiful. I can give you a little inside baseball. We're eyeing a couple of like artists who we really want to feature some of their naked lady candles on in our store because I think they're so beautiful and the female body is so beautiful and like part of our brand is really to create this reflective space where you can honor yourself. It's a beautiful thing no matter what shape you are, it's all beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, that is something that, oh, okay, so I kind of got my start
Yeah.
long before I was a sexologist, I was a weight loss coach.
Mhm.
And one of
Oh,
my favorite
interesting.
parts was talking to women at first about how they didn't want to get undressed with the lights on.
Mm.
They didn't like what they
Oh.
saw in the mirror, or they wouldn't even look at
Mhm.
themselves naked in the mirror.
Mm.
And
Mm.
then over time, helping them turn inwards. It wasn't, we were trying to teach them that whole time that you can't wait until the scale says what you want it to say or your clothes fit the way you want them to
Absolutely.
fit to embrace yourself. Like if you wait
Yeah.
that long, it's not going to feel as good. You've got to learn to just love yourself and embrace what you've got right now. Enjoy the
Mhm.
journey. Learn to at least,
Yes.
if you can't convince yourself to love this body that you are currently in, at least learn to be
Mhm.
neutral towards it. Because if you go
Oh,
from,
that's interesting.
it's hard to go from really negative about your body to really
Yeah.
positive
Yeah.
about it, but if
Yeah.
you can go from
Yeah.
negative to neutral,
Mhm.
and it's surrounding myself with earrings like this, where it's a kind of
Mhm.
she's a full figured lady on my earring. I've got little
Mhm.
statuettes
Love it.
in my office of
Love
plumper
it.
bodies and
Yes.
voluptuous figures.
Mhm.
And I think that was an essential part of helping me in my life through body to accept my body, love my body as it
Mhm.
is, because I was far less judgmental towards other people's bodies than I ever was towards my own.
Of course,
We're
we all
always our
are.
own
Yeah.
worst critic. So
Yeah.
I think that having things like that, like little candles that are naked people or art of
Mhm.
fuller figured people, like all bodies, shapes, and sizes, having that in your view is actually really, really helpful to
I
simply
think so.
being neutral towards bodies.
Absolutely. And you know what? This is an interesting fact about living in Germany that we don't have in the United States. So, just to be clear, I moved from the US. I am not German. I moved from New York City, Fort Greene, Brooklyn in particular. And what we have in Germany, we have things called FKK beaches. And so these are beaches where people are nude and it is not a thing. When I say it's not a big thing, like it's no one cares, no one's eyeing you, no one you feel completely comfortable, and you see so many different body types. And when I went to that first Epcot beach, it's a beautiful one, like located in the middle of the Grunewald forest, like an old glacier, like a glacier lake. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous.
Oh.
I realized I hadn't seen that many aging bodies. So you have women and folks with vulvas and people with penises and men who are older. They're like in their 60s, their 70s, their 80s. Like you just never see bodies age, and it makes you feel so much more care for your own body because you see the differences and then you see the intimacy too. So you have older couples who are completely naked and are hanging out with each other and they're maybe touching a hand or nothing untoward is happening. And there's something very warming about that. It's like, oh, this is just how your body ages. You're still a sexual person. You're still a beautiful person. You're still connected, to another human being. Like you don't die after menopause or whatever, right? Like life goes on and pleasure can still be experienced. And that has been a genuine gift to living in Germany, starting a intimate wellness brand in Germany, a place that is not really afraid of bodies. Where in the U.S. we're a little bit more covered. Like you never. It just doesn't happen. Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, here in the US, we still
yeah.
have people freaking out about the fact that Walmart has vibrators for sale. And
Oh
oh my
yeah, for
gosh,
sure.
kids might see them. And ah, that's a whole other issue.
Yes.
But
I know, I know. The
I,
same thing. Target's investing in it though, also. Target, I mean, people
mhm.
are coming around. I know for other brands, we have Dame that is also now in Target, going into Target. Bloomy, who I am such a huge fan of their founder, Rebecca Alvarez Story. And believe you me, like the way I look at this thing is that there's enough abundance on the table for all of us. I am not someone who has this sense of like, oh, well, I wanted to only be solo. I'm just like, whoever creates tools for you to connect with yourself and experience pleasure, go for it. Like, I want her to win. I want Dave to win. I want us to win. I want all of us to win. Like, it's just my approach
Yes,
to this. It's like good
we can
work to be
bake
done in the
more
world.
pies. We don't need to worry about just getting a small shipment.
Oh, a
There's more
hundred
pies to make.
percent. Just more pies. And every pie is different. And then you get to find the pie you love the most, like it is. And I think that you would understand this a lot too, because you work in such an intimate space with, and I think that I wonder who is attracted to you, like who's coming to you, what type of person is saying, hey, I want to hear what Kristen has to say, you know?
I get a lot of the people who grew up with religious indoctrination, and they've
Mhm. Mhm.
deconstructed their faith. I get a lot of
Yeah.
people who struggle with releasing messages of the past, even if their parents weren't
Mm.
heavy duty Christians, the
Yeah.
evangelicals, things like
Yeah.
that, but their parents still grew up in America. Their parents still
Yeah.
had conservative
Mhm.
leaning values that were
Mhm.
generationally
Mhm.
passed down. And that
Mhm.
included things like touching yourself is dirty. Experiencing
Yeah.
pleasure is not really a thing for
Yeah.
women. You're just supposed to
Yeah.
be doing your wifely duties for your
Exactly.
husband.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and or I get a lot of the guys who they just don't want to be creeps. They're single now. Like either they're
Mm.
post-divorce or maybe they've just not
Yeah.
found somebody to commit to long term and they're out
Mm.
in the dating world and yeah,
Mhm.
they just don't. I just don't want to be a creep is a thing I hear all the time, which I'm always like,
I
the
mean,
fact that you're aware and you
yeah,
just don't want to be
that's
the creep,
huge.
you're probably not the creep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, but when I'm working with people who are,
Mhm.
especially in coupleships, where they have low libido, where there's a difference in their libido, and
Mm.
typically the
Mm.
vulva owner is the one who
Mhm.
doesn't want it as often. That's not always the
Yeah.
case, but typically.
Yeah.
And when I really start
Mhm.
digging down into it, I find that they are so disconnected from their bodies. They don't have a solo sex
Yes.
practice. They're either
Yes. Yes.
a lot of times they get into this mindset that if they were to participate in a solo sex practice, that it would leave less pleasure or leave less drive for them to then participate in
Wow.
coupled playtime.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It has the opposite effect. It has the exact
Yes.
opposite
Yes.
effect. Now,
Yeah. It's
when you
like
start
no,
getting those,
no.
yeah, get those
Yeah.
juicy neurotransmitters flowing through your system, and then you're going to want it more often.
Yes. 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 Like this is good for you as a couple. And actually this has been a conversation. I mean, I've had so many conversations about self pleasure, solo play, solo like all these things, and especially the questions that come from people who are partnered with men. Where I've had male friends who've said, "Well, why aren't you doing something for couples? And don't you think, I don't know, my wife, I don't want her to do this by herself, or I'm like, you don't have to be inserted into everything. Like, it's
Right?
important for her to have her own space to explore. And um, I found it to be. I think there might be an education gap, and I don't know if you find this as well. Like it's like how we can go back to sex education, how we talk about sex education in
Mhm.
schools, how we talk about pleasure in schools. I don't even think pleasure is mentioned at all, to be honest, in any sort of sexual
No,
education
no.
context, you know?
Doubtful, at least not in this state. I mean, maybe in some more progressive states that have actual
Possibly.
genuine sex education programs like Colorado.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
this wasn't even, I'm holding up my 3D model of my clitoris for those listening.
Love
This
it.
wasn't even mapped properly until 2009.
1998.
98 was the first time it was
It's,
really mapped.
it's 98 was the first time it was really mapped. 2005 was a 3D. And was what was 2009? What was 2009?
Maybe it was
Because
2005 I
it's like
was thinking of when this was like the
yeah,
finally the 3D
2005.
map.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because yeah, no, it's like finally the 3D. They did an MRI of the clitoris. 2005. This is the 21st century. It says everything you need to understand about the importance
Mhm.
of anatomy you know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
crazy, absolutely
and
crazy.
as you say about pleasure, there's
Mhm.
such little
Yeah.
education about pleasure, and
Yes.
a
Yeah.
lot of people obviously
Yeah.
turn to pornography or other things to try to
Mhm. Mhm.
understand what pleasure means or what could bring pleasure
Oh wow.
to a partner,
Mm.
rather than simply checking out their own bodies,
I
asking
know.
questions,
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a couple's like pleasure session where you just practice touching
Mhm.
each other, that it's not actually about
Mm.
intercourse or orgasms.
Yes.
It's just about
Yes.
touch
Yes.
and testing things out. And
Yes.
so your product.
Yes.
Yeah,
Go
I
back to
think
my
about,
product. Yeah.
yes, back to your product. I think about how, me telling someone just, touch yourself. Okay, that's one thing.
Mhm.
But I have also talked about a practice of, either using like a lotion or an oil or things like that, and
Mhm.
starting at your
Mhm.
toes and like
Mhm.
touching
Yes.
every
Yes.
inch of your
Yes.
body, not
Yes.
not just to get
Yes.
hydration into your skin, but to
Yes.
experience the
Yes.
touch.
Yeah.
So Solo can be that product that you put on your vulva and then explore that area. So you also infused it with CBD and
We infuse it with CBD, and I should note that it's not only for vulva massage, like or vulva stimulation. Like you can really use it all over your body because of it's an all natural product. And we had there's a wonderful sex doula slash boudoir photographer who she's a fan of Soul. It's like her favorite of Glow Intimacy Oil Formula Number One, guys. I should also say it's Glow Intimacy Oil Formula Number One is the actual brand name. Solo is the name of the company. But I will say this. Like it is the longest name known to man, and when we were naming it, I don't think we realized it because we're doing multiple formulas, which is why this is formula number one. We're going to do formula number two, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, um, so we have she had a retreat where a massage therapist actually went and taught people how to do hand massages with it as a way to start connecting. So the same way you're connecting going from the toes all the way up, she started with the digits and just being like really intentional about massaging and moisturizing your hand and closing your eyes and breathing deeply because it is kind of about creating a pleasure map. You know, if you have had an idea, pleasure has nothing that has been modeled for you, and pleasure does not necessarily mean sexual pleasure. We all know that, right? It's like, when was the last time you bit into a piece of food that was amazing and you closed your eyes and you ate, you
mm,
chewed it slowly and you tasted everything with your tongue, or you stopped and like smelt flowers, or intentionally walked down the street. Like it's spring now, so all the trees are flowering. The other day I saw tree flowers are gorgeous. They're beautiful. And it's something that you may not notice, but that is all about experiencing the pleasure of life, the pleasure of just being alive. This is the gift of it. This is our gift. And so we know that the brain is, we call that's a large pleasure organ, but the skin is actually the largest. And so starting with the massage, and she said that closing your eyes and massaging with the Glow Intimacy Oil Formula Number One was so good for folks to just really begin to engage. We have a lot of like warming notes in it. So it's not only the coconut oil, MCT oil, we have, let's see, I can tell you, but I feel so cinnamon. So it's
mm,
cinnamon and kava kava and vanilla and peppermint are like the beginning. So when you first inhale it, it's really, really so warming and inviting. and then it gives like a little bit of a spice, so it helps wake you up and arouse you. And so that's like
Mm.
we worked with a scientist who created a scientist who also had a vulva, which was really important for us, you know.
Uh-huh.
Um, and and whenever people smell it initially, what they love, what they find pleasurable, is what they'll attribute to the smell. That's the first thing. So I've had someone be like, I smell chocolate. Is there some chocolatey notes? I'm like, no, but you're smelling something warming, and that's really what's like coming back. These
Mm.
positive, smell is such it helps recall so much memory. So
Yeah.
it's been interesting. Okay, that was a very long response, but essentially, yes, you can use it for massage, and as well as stimulation.
Yeah, I that warming sensation, I'm sure, and a little bit of
Hmm.
like blood flow, but like CBD
Oh,
is
absolutely, because of
also,
the CBD. Yeah.
yes, that is, I think, something that's incredibly important for especially vulva owners.
Yes.
I wrote about the benefits of CBD in a couple of my columns,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
it just has, I don't want to call it like this, like magical thing, but like cannabis products. There was a reason I think that the pharmaceutical industry, 100 years ago, tried to make sure that that
Oh,
stuff
we
was
can have a whole
not
conversation
available
about
to the
that. Yeah,
public.
but don't worry, they're cashing in now. It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, yeah. Rather than keep it banned,
Yeah,
they're just cashing in for sure. But
of course. Oh, absolutely.
CBD has some incredible properties to it. So why was it
It
important
does.
for you to include that in your formula?
Well, I think for me and legally, because we're a brand that sells a CBD product, there's certain things I can't make claims about CBD, even in publicly. So I always say what studies have shown or what our clients have found is that CBD, CBD is a vacillator. So it deepens your if orgasm is your goal, it deepens your orgasm. It helps you relax. It also can have a slight numbing effect. So for people who might have some pain during sex, it can be helpful too.
Hmm.
And I should note that this is the product. What's been interesting about having a CBD product, and it can be used medically. So you have pelvic floor therapists who recommend it. You have folks who have just finished chemotherapy and they're experiencing some dryness and they need something that is a little bit stronger than an average intimacy oil, and they purchase it. It's just ranges, but yeah, CBD is like absolutely amazing, and I found it to be really, really a difference, and our testers did as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All of those
I
things.
know. I'm like, and what I cannot do is this, you know.
Mhm. Well, as you talked about with it being like, vasodilator, when you think about the clitoris, like the reason that we get turned on or we kind of get like
Yes,
an ache is because
all
this
the blood
fills up
rushes.
with blood, and
Yeah. Mhm.
anything you can do to help bring blood flow to the area just makes
Yes.
things even
Mhm.
better.
Yeah,
So even
absolutely.
for people that maybe aren't struggling with dryness or that aren't, struggling with
Mhm.
their orgasm, that doesn't mean that this can't further enhance it and make it even better.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that when we talk about it, we don't talk about it from the because we don't want to make a claim like, hey, this is going to give you the biggest O in the whole entire world. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is it's like if you want and I don't say this lightly, elevated experience, if you want something that's a little bit more um, like to enhance your exploration, this is the product for you,
Mhm.
like use this product. Uh, say, listen, to get to the formula that we got to, we went through 3 rounds of testing to get to this formula. This is not something that we're just like, okay, let's white label it, let's do it. We tried it at different levels of CBD. The first one was 150 milligrams, and then we went to 300, and then we finally landed on 450 milligrams of CBD, and then 25 milligrams of CBN, which is another cannabinoid, all legal, all hemp,
Mhm.
and like that is the one we felt that the testers felt, the team felt, because everyone tries it. Like it is not something where like we're saying, hey, you do it, we use it too. Um, that the testers felt that this is the one that makes the difference, right? And it's manufactured in upstate New York, And I literally, I'm not kidding you, flew back from Berlin, Germany to New York to make sure that it was right, that we had this like third formula, the one that I loved, because I won't be able to sell anything I don't love
Right.
or
Yeah.
that other people really don't care about, because it's important.
Well, that's that entrepreneur in you, which that is something I'm also curious about. I mean, this
Yeah.
wasn't something that you just started off like as a young adult or right out of college or things like that.
No,
You
no.
lived a life before you founded Solo. So what was it that was a catalyst for you to start making this shift and to jump
Yeah.
into a company that focuses on self pleasure and sexual wellness?
Yeah. That's such an interesting question because I was in Wall Street before this. I worked in Wall Street. Have a law and finance background. I am not it's just for many people they're like, "What? What are you doing with your time in your life? You're doing this?" But like many people, I think the pandemic was a moment of transformation and also like great loss. And
Hmm.
what I found was, I was working on Wall Street, again, living in Fort Greene, Brooklyn. I was volunteering my time on the weekends, but I wanted to do something that was super impactful with my life. I think that I wanted to build a company for women and people with vulvas. Like I'm very, very passionate about women connecting with themselves. And this is just not only through intimate wellness, right? This is also like yoga and meditation, whatever spiritual practice that you have, like loving your women are literally women and people with vulvas because we don't want to like we are that make sure to include gender inclusive language within our brand. It's extremely
Yes.
important for us. I must note that. Um, and absolutely intentional. And so, but I think that people with vulvas and women, when we are connected, the impact is infinite. It's infinite. We do so much good work in the world, do so much work for communities. And for many of us, pleasure is not modeled. It's just not modeled. Hard work is modeled, but pleasure is
Hmm.
not modeled. And I think I can connect that for myself. I can also go back to my women of color feminism classes and like Bell Hooks and Audre Lorde are literally patron saints of the brand. Like Audre Lorde is on the website, like um,
Yeah, I
you
noticed that.
know, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so yeah, so it's like there's a mix of things. I think about all my life experiences that have led me to this moment, and it just feels like a natural integration of my values, of what I'm passionate about, of what I think the world needs and where I can show up for the world because I think that there are many gifts that people have, right? And many spaces in which you can show up and be an advocate for. But this is my space. This is my space. This is where I'm deciding to put my money where my mouth is and switch my life. So just to go back a little bit, I'll get off my. I feel like I'm on a what do you call it? Like a soapbox here. But I am extremely passionate about it. So I was working on Wall Street. I was living in Fort Greene, Brooklyn. In August of 2021, I quit my job and I moved to Berlin, Germany, and I started this company. And it has been an absolute journey, a learning curve because I wasn't in retail before. But as with anything that we do, we gather and surround. I have a good advisory board of folks who from gynecologists to brand managers at major companies who have been super amazing and generous with their knowledge with me. Where we want to take the brand, I can talk about that later, is going to be so much bigger than this beautiful bottle of intimacy oil. This is just where we're starting. But
Hmm.
where we're going to be going is huge. It's huge.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
excited too. I mean,
Thank you.
I don't know what you can reveal, but also like I figured that was part of your process, especially as you've described it as being formula number one. I
Yeah.
knew that that meant that there was probably more things to come.
Yes.
So,
Hmm.
um, can you share any bits of like ideas that you have, or
I do.
you can keep
I
it under
can share.
wraps?
No, no, no. It's fine. I can totally share a little bit about where we're going. I can't share everything, but I can tell you. So formula number two is we were going to do formula number two as scentless. And because we wanted to make sure that we had a product where everyone can use, right? You know, some people are very sensitive to smell. And can I just tell you, Kristen, like we made a tester for it, and then it just wasn't the same. Like
Mm.
smell is so linked to arousal and to
Yeah.
pleasure. It's so connected that we were like, we can't even do it. So formula number two is not going to be scentless like we thought it was going to be. Formula number two is actually going to be a little bit different botanical, so maybe a little bit like a lighter smell. But what we plan on doing, I want to be in everyone's, like I want it solo to be synonymous with self care. I want to be in your bedrooms, okay? Like it is so important that to have really good high quality products from someone who cares, right? You know, you have many people out there that are sourcing from anywhere, but we do not. Like our product is made in upstate New York with organic hemp. I've been to the factory multiple times, like know the people, get to know them, you know, like who's making my stuff.
Hmm.
Um, or our stuff, I will say, because I view
Yeah.
Solo as a community brand. It is not only mine. It's a community baby. It's raised in the community. So yeah, I mean, so that's what format. And then we're looking into bath stuff. Scents are really important. There's a amazing aromatherapist here in Berlin who I want to do a collaboration with on scent. She's
Oh.
fantastic. When I say like brilliant, just simply brilliant. So really, that's it. We want to be able to expand what self pleasure is, right? So not only is it about your vulva stimulation, it's also about how you are pleasuring in general. How are you bathing? It's creating tools which help you be intentional in your self care. Um, I mean, I have dreams for having solo sheets. Okay, like I want you to be laying on the bed. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a journey, and I'm very excited to be on it, and I feel very very blessed and thankful to have this opportunity to create just products that people love, that I love, that are connected to healing and happiness and joy, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. So formula number two, we'll see.
Yeah.
It'll probably I will say we'll probably do maybe the bath stuff next. But yeah, we'll see. Formula number two is still in the works. We're still trying to find the combination. Formula number one took some time, you know, to get this like mix of botanicals and the right
Yeah.
amount. So yeah.
And it's better to do it right and like you say, put out a product that even you would want to use. I
Oh,
think
absolutely.
plenty of people out there trying to capitalize on sexual health and wellness and don't know a thing about it
It's a
or like wouldn't use it
thing.
themselves.
Oh, 100%. And you know what's going to be interesting, because I do think this within the next, you know how yoga, like if you were around in the 90s, for instance, right? Because you talked about, it's not my first, I'm in my 40s now.
Same.
And so same. It's so hard to say it. Like, I'm like, this is going to be recorded for everything. There's like nothing wrong with that. But, you know, in the 90s, if you practice yoga or meditation or were a vegetarian, or especially if you were a vegan, people are like, what the heck is going on with you, right? And so now it's completely normalized. Everyone is practicing yoga. Everyone is meditating. Everyone is doing all these things. Self pleasure and intimate wellness is going to become so mainstream, it will be nothing. And this is going to be like in the next 5 to 10 years, you can already see the needle shifting. And now that you have these big brands and celebrity brands, Christina Aguilera just came out with something recently.
Oh,
I
I saw
mean,
that. Hmm.
did you see that? It's like, Christina, what? Okay, welcome, 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 welcome.
Yeah,
You
right.
know? Yeah, totally. So it's
And,
it's going to be normalized. I'm very excited for that evolution and shift.
I'm here for it too. I'm here for it too.
Yeah.
I I look forward to the day where I don't actually have to teach people about self-pleasure because
Yes.
it was either part of their curriculum, it was easy
Mhm.
for them to find information and to access
Mhm. Mhm.
instruction or guidance or tips that were
Yes.
actually, factual based. They were based in science.
Yes.
That they work with people who help them learn and explore to the point where I make myself obsolete. I would
Mhm.
love that.
Yeah.
I do see things going more and more mainstream. Absolutely.
Mhm.
It used to be here, even in the United States, you had to go to that specialty store. Yeah, obviously, online
Oh,
made it easy to
absolutely.
start buying
Yeah.
toys. And now you can go to Target and Walmart and get them, which I find fabulous.
Me too. I do. I'm all for it. I'm 100% all for it. In terms of for your clientele, for people who are getting over their own narratives, like the internal narratives in which they were raised with, what are some of the tools that you use? I'd be very interested to know.
Well, like I meant, we kind of talked about it a moment ago, that pleasure mapping,
Yeah.
that self exploration practice where
Mhm.
it's not
Mhm.
focused on an orgasm. It's not even necessarily focused on your genitals, but it's focused on
Mhm.
exploring your body. That can be in the
Mhm.
shower and just learning to feel what
Mhm.
that water actually feels like going over your skin, not just
Mhm.
go through the motions. Again, it
Yeah.
can be, God, an eye gazing practice with your partner can be a real nice
Ooh,
beginning to
that's
trying to open yourself
lovely.
up to exploring to intimacy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, there's a great book that I absolutely love, especially for vulva owners who don't either understand their vulva as well as they could,
Mhm. Mhm.
or just have never really explored their vulva. But Becoming Clitorate by Dr. Lori Mintz is a
Oh, I don't know
fabulous
that one.
book.
I'll take it.
I love.
Okay.
I
Wonderful.
I reread it because I read it when I was doing
Uh-huh.
my coaching practicum and stuff. Um,
Mhm.
but I reread it recently, and I even reached out to her on Instagram and was like, "I just have to tell you how much I love your book." And
Great.
it actually has some practices in there, walking the
Uh-huh.
reader through getting in touch with their body
Excellent.
and getting in touch with their
Excellent.
vulva. And then
Yeah.
again, it's not about masturbation. It's not about the orgasm. It's just about
Yeah.
understanding how things feel and how it works and
Mm.
what you like.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. I absolutely love that. I think that one of the things that we're interested in doing, if you have any other book recommendations, let me know, is we want to start, creating a list of books that we love, that have taught us as a team, but also that would be really good resources for folks, because
Mhm.
it starts there. And I will say that our website, our branding is very intentionally looks like beauty. We want it to be an approachable, open space for you to come and explore. Because when you have all these like these narratives, right, that you're raised with, um, when you see an image or something that might be a little bit too much, it could turn you, like, could shut you down and you can turn away.
Mhm.
So we wanted to, create something a little bit more approachable. That's the word I'll use for it. Yeah,
Mhm.
approachable for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the part of that is, so please send me all your recommendations, all of it. And I would love, love, love to share it with our followers. And then also maybe do something on the website. I think we're going to add something after that. Be good.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'd be happy to do that. Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, that brings us to, I mean, yes, you just asked me a question, but that brings us to our last segment, which is Ask Coach Kristen Anything, which is your chance to either ask me a question that you would like the answer to, ask for a
Hmm.
friend, or maybe I can help just provide a little bit more information or context to a recent conversation you and friends or colleagues have had. So, what have you got for me today, Kaya?
That's really good. That is really good. Okay, I have a couple of things that I'll recount some questions that I received because, as you know, I am constantly receiving questions, and I have to explain to people I'm not trained to be a sexologist, but I am more than happy to connect with sexologists, and I am in the beautiful company of sexologists all the time, and sexualism and all this
Yeah.
stuff. So, but one of the common questions that I have is one where you have partners, and this isn't a solo sex question, but where you have partners who have different libidos, right? And what can you do? Is there a way that they could ever meet? Or is there always going to be one partner has a higher level than one, or is even a point for it to meet? Or do they exit the relationship? So is that enough to say, we aren't
Mhm.
compatible, we need to exit, or alternatively, I want to go seek another human being who might be more compatible. So, yeah,
Yeah.
let me know about that.
So,
That's a question I get.
I think that everything that you said right there are all absolutely viable options. Like,
Okay.
yes, you do have to look at, is this a situation where both of us are willing to do work to make this better? Because you may
Mhm.
have one person who's like, I'm fine. I don't want to change. I don't want to meet you in the middle. And if you cannot
Mhm.
meet in the middle on this issue in particular with your partner,
Mhm.
there's no point in the other person trying to work on it alone. Um, Really, what long-term success looks like is typically the higher libido person coming down to meet the lower libido person where they're at, and then
Mhm.
together start working incrementally to have
Interesting.
more and more, sexy time. We can't just say it's about
Mhm.
intercourse. That's also a thing too. Perhaps that higher libido person is simply saying, I want intercourse, and they're completely missing all the things that that lower libido person needs to feel connected and to have
Mhm.
intimacy, to want to have intercourse.
Mhm.
So it can also be about a conversation where it's redefining, what does sex, what does sexual touch, what does eroticism and sensuality, all of that stuff look like for you too. It
Mhm.
can also be that the lower libido person shut down because the higher libido person's kind of an asshole, doesn't participate in their
Mhm.
life,
It's all
doesn't
connected.
participate in
Yeah.
their home, just expects like sex, food, and, show up when I need you, but they're not actually participating in building a life together. So there's nothing enticing there for this lower libido person to want to give themselves to the other person because they're not being met with
Mhm.
their other needs. So, um, there is another book I will mention at this point, Matthew Frey's This Is How Your Marriage Ends. I had the hardest time
Ooh.
getting people to read this goddamn book because, on the one hand, people who don't want their marriage to end are afraid of that main title, but the
Uh-huh.
subtitle of it is basically, I think, something to the effect of like how to save your marriage. So the people who are already
Mhm.
done and are just wanting to read the book for validation don't want to give their partner like any hope that, oh,
Hope.
if you
Yeah.
read this book, it might save your marriage. But the point of the book is, from a man's perspective, trying to help,
Mhm.
especially other men, understand all the crap that they do to diminish their partner's spirit, to
Mm.
push them away, to,
Mm.
not really participate in what true intimacy looks like.
Mhm.
Intimacy is a dance where
Yes,
it's
it
you're
is.
both giving, you're both receiving,
Mhm.
and a lot of men have not been given the proper socialization or training or information that they need to recognize what intimacy is like, especially for their female partner or their vulva owning
Mhm.
partner. So this is
Mhm.
especially important in cis
Mhm.
heterosexual relationships.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's not to say that, a difference in libido can't happen for gay men or lesbian couples or
Yeah.
non-binary
Yeah.
couple. Like,
Yeah.
it can
Yeah.
happen to all of us.
Mhm.
Um, but again, no matter what your gender identity is or what your partner's gender identity
Mhm.
is, when
Mhm.
there is a difference in libido, I think you've got to look at like mindset stuff. You do have to look at
Mhm.
body and body image and all that stuff.
Yes. Yes.
And then
Yes.
maybe you've also got to look at some either social or spiritual hangups that might be
Yeah.
blocking the two of you from really connecting. Because that's really
Yeah.
what's going on here. If one of you wants to have sex and the other one doesn't,
Mhm.
something is amiss in that connection. And it probably is not
Mhm.
just going to be about trying to schedule sex or
Yeah.
prioritizing,
Mhm.
sexy time. It's going to be a more robust and, um, how should I put it? It's going to be a more robust approach. It's going to be multifaceted as well.
Mhm. I like that. I like that. I like that. It's not just one cookie cutter size fits all. Another group
Mhm.
of our customers are women who are going through menopause. And clearly they use Glow because they're experiencing lots of dryness because it is also a moisturizer as well.
Mhm.
You can just it helps a great deal. And
Mhm.
so, I find that a lot of women who are going through this stage in life who've come to me, women and people of both, typically people who identify as women, are talking to me about this stage of life and how you really can just not want to be touched at this stage in life, and how do you navigate the the all these hormonal changes. Like, you're literally going through a process of moving from this to this, and your body is changing, So how do you stay connected to yourself as you're going through this process and to yourself as a sexual person?
I think it's important to recognize that you will have to adjust your approach as you age. That the things that
Mhm.
you did when you were 20 are probably not the things you want to do in bed when you're 30, and it's probably not the things you want to do when you're 50. You know, when you were 30 and you
Yeah.
were super in love, maybe you wanted to be all cuddled up in bed, and then when you're
Mhm.
55 and you're going through, or even 45, you can, go through menopause or
Yeah, go through.
premenopause earlier than that. Or maybe you have a hysterectomy like I did and
Yeah.
start getting those
Yeah.
hot
Yeah.
flashes sooner.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
know right now I'm experiencing that where there's times where I'm like, oh my God, I'm so hot. Please just move to the other side of the bed. Like I love you so much. I do think that there's an important point of being conscientious about our language and
Mhm.
um, I'm not saying like we need to coddle our partners and be
Mhm.
nice to them when we're telling them like get the fuck off me, I'm too hot.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
also saying I'm having a hot flash, I need just a little bit more space is going to be received a lot better than like, oh God, could you just get on your side of the bed?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, exactly.
like be careful about the tone and what you're using
Mhm.
because like I'm not saying you need to be like flowery and lovey when you're feeling that sensation, but you also like think about for yourself too to reside in
Mhm.
that like constant because that's something that a lot of people talk about is I feel angry, I feel tense, I feel like
Mhm.
things just aren't what they used to be. They feel
Mhm.
agitated, and so many
Mhm.
even peers of mine who have talked about they're watching their mothers go through menopause and be like,
Yeah.
God, we've barely survived as a family with getting through my mom's menopause. But then once she was through it, everything was golden again. She was back to her sweet
Mhm.
self. So, but there is a lot of stuff that goes on in our bodies that we have no control over with those
Yeah.
hormonal shifts. So, a little bit of grace for yourself and for your partner during that time can
Mhm.
be really, really
Mhm.
important. If you feel like you need to get some sort of a pharmacological solution, whether that's bioidentical hormones or
Mhm.
something like no shade, like do what you got to do. That's
Mhm.
not for everybody.
Mhm.
Um, but also just trying to understand maybe you've got to go through some experimentation right now to relearn
Okay.
who you
Yeah.
are, what you like, and what your body
Mm.
feels, good with.
Mhm.
It's okay. Your body is going to shift. Your clitoris keeps growing. Like
Mhm.
there's all sorts of things that people just don't understand about
Yeah.
themselves, even
Yeah.
going into menopause.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then once things start shifting and you feel like you maybe had some things figured out, it's all like new again. So I guess
Mhm.
embrace the newness is part of it. Embrace the shifts, embrace the changes because the more you resist that stuff, like all that's doing
Yeah.
is holding you back from being
For
present
sure.
and
For sure.
enjoying. And pleasure is all about presence, right? It's hard
Yes,
to
it
experience
is.
pleasure when you're thinking
Yes.
about the past, you're
Yes.
worrying about the future. Pleasure is all
Mhm.
tied to presence. So embrace the present while you're at it.
I love that. I love that. I love that so much. Embrace the present. Thank you. That is good. Pleasure's about presence. We might have to grab that. That's
I'll
amazing.
let you have it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Kaya, this has been a wonderful conversation
Yes.
today. And of
Oh,
course, I want people to be able to find you. Just to let the listeners know, too, you can check the show notes. You will find a link there
yes.
to try Glow Intimacy Oil #1 yourself. So,
Yeah, please.
and get a discount.
And get a discount. And also, I just want to say this really quickly. We are in a pre-sale event, and purchase Glow Intimacy Oil Formula #1. What you do get is you get a free gift, and your free gift is a meditation by me. I'm the one that does a guided meditation, and then also a beautiful workshop by Marla Renee Stewart, who we all know is a fabulous, fantastic sexologist, and I'm so glad she agreed to do this. And where she teaches you how to the optimal way to use Glow Intimacy Oil Formula #1, and you get 10% off of her store. So all these little goodies, if you do buy pre-sale, we love the product. It's a great product. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time. I really do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Who's my guy? Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yay.
oh, can they find you on social media as well?
Oh, yes, where they can find me on social media. Yes. You can find us on Instagram at My Solo Is Love. So that's My Solo Is Love. Solo is a very popular name, so we just couldn't find solo.com. So My Solo is Love is our Instagram handle. You can also find us on our website at www.mysoloislove.com. But Instagram is our main way that we nurture our community. Whole Instagram series with different sexologists, gynecologists, pelvic floor therapists, the pleasure specialists, like all of this. So we try to have a new person. We're going to be doing a new person every Friday. So yes, if you want to tune into that, that'd be great.
Yeah, wonderful,
Love it.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank
We
you
have to do the
again,
reverse,
Kya.
Kristen. Yeah.
Well, thank you again so much for being my guest today on Keep Them Coming, and I wish you all the success in the world.
Thank you. I appreciate your time and thank you for your thoughtful questions and just learning about me and the brand.
Yeah,
Yeah. Sending you guys
absolutely.
lots of light and love for sure.
And pleasure.
And pleasure. Oh, always
Yeah,
pleasure. Always
yeah.
pleasure.
Take care.
Thanks.